And welcome in to another episode of Too Many Points on the Tell Me More podcast. I'm your host, Mac Moore, and we have a great roundtable of guests today. We got Bobby to wake up. I only had to call him via Facebook Messenger, which is the worst thing that I've ever done as an adult. So thanks, Bobby, for putting me in that situation.
I was up. I was up like a good minute before you called me, so I woke up bright and early at 11:50.
I didn't see a read receipt on my dozens of messages, so I couldn't be sure. We got Marco in, who penciled us in, even though he's going in to cover at the radio station. So the fact that he's such a go-getter, it's exciting. I will never end up waking up in time for coffee on to actually join in on it. I will watch it in post, which shows how old I'm getting. Live streaming means nothing to me. I just like to know that it's there as quick as it can be, and I will watch it at my leisure. And then the most surprising guest, I am so happy to have Shane Jackson on, the hardest working sports writer west of the Mississippi. He's out covering high school in the Lawrence area while also delivering a mass amount of KU coverage. So, Shane, thanks for joining us and bringing some legitimacy to this podcast with 30 viewers.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. That's speaking too highly of me.
So we're going to do the normal thing and just randomly jump into topics and have no idea where we're going because I'm a very terrible host. But starting out, I know that normally I've been the one putting together what our previous week's bets were. If Bobby didn't do that, we're just going to pretend it's just going to be a wash for the last week because I forgot to go back and check it. So we're going to have Bobby's hypothetical sports bets at the end, and we're just going to start from scratch. But this week, there's not even a lot of games on the NFL slate for us to talk about. So this is the worst week for me to pick to actually do two NFL pods. Normally, we bunch it together with the recap from the week before, and then we just talk about the games for the next week as quick as we can. Now I dedicate an entire podcast to it, and all I care about, Ravens, Steelers, Seahawks, 49ers, because every Seahawks game is interesting no matter who they're facing. Starting out, we brought on Shane to end up talking about the most important game for the Ravens so far this year. I know the Chiefs seem like that would be it, but division game against the undefeated team, you have to win this one, particularly if you're going to stay on track to be a Super Bowl contender. And it's going to be tough. This Steelers team, week after week, like they started out with a schedule that didn't look all that impressive, but every time they move up the ladder, they still do the same damage. Shane, are you scared of your Ravens having to go in and face the Steelers?
Well, to be fair, I'm scared of every game. I think it was week 1 against the Browns, and I was figuring out ways the Ravens could lose that game. I mean, the worst fan in the history of sports right here. But no, yeah, I think you bring up a good point. This is nerve-wracking. The Chiefs game obviously was the biggest game entering the year. Everybody was looking forward to it. But now that they've lost that game, everyone's like, okay, this is who the Ravens are. They are a front-running team. They have a clear flaw, and they can't be treated really as a Super Bowl contender unless they can prove that they can beat that. Unless they can prove they can beat a really good team or prove that they can come from behind and win a game like that. So, yeah, it is scary. And in order to do that, you have to beat a team like the Steelers, and the Steelers are playing really well. The Titans game was very impressive, the win over them. But I still think, the Ravens are favored for a reason. This is the second best team in the NFL in my point of view. So I think I would still feel confident in the Ravens this week, but they have clear flaws, and they're struggling on offense. In particular, Lamar is struggling when he's in empty formations. A lot of people have written about that the last couple of weeks. So there are reasons for concern with the Ravens, but I still think that they are favored for a reason, and I would pick them this week.
All right, this is the most level-headed response from a fan of a team that we're talking about. We will not get that when we make it to Chiefs action. It's a nice -19.5, I think, is what I'm seeing on ESPN. So that one will be fun, as I know Bobby puts that into the hypothetical sports bets just to ruin my life. Bobby, you're the one most likely to say really negative things about Lamar Jackson to upset Shane here. So I'll let you jump in and give me your take on this game.
You know what? Lamar Jackson is a fantastic running back. I will give him that. He can run it really well. They just happen to only pass it for 20 yards a game. They did sign Des Bryant, so you never know. He may revive his 2013 form. But the Ravens are what the Ravens are. When they run the ball really well, they can control the clock, keep the game moving. They have the defense to, keep the games close. Lamar Jackson, we always knew, the 30-plus touchdowns weren't going to happen every season. He is a good passer. He's not a great passer. And especially when you're passing a Hollywood Brown who can only run straight, and that's pretty much it. You have Mark Andrews, a fantastic tight end, but he's not Gronk. He's not Kelsey. He's not, prime Zach Ertz. So the offense is what we thought it was, but I'd like to see them use Dobbins a bit more, just if they're going to do the run pass option more, because I think that's what they have to do. That's what their offense is. Let's not try to make Lamar Jackson a pocket passer. He's not a pocket passer.
See, I would have scoffed at the Dobbins thing there, except for the fact that I finally just let go of Mark Ingram. I couldn't hold on to him in fantasy anymore because it just hurt, and I know what he's capable of, and I know the moment he's gone, and somebody picked him up like the day after. He was on a bye week, and they still picked him up for like $5 on the waiver wire, and I'm like, man, he's going to go for like 3 touchdowns in one of these games. It just really upset me. But Marco, when you're looking at fantasy, this is probably the biggest thing about the offense is we know that this is a team that even when they're not playing what they did last year, nobody expected them to come back and put up those numbers because we've never seen those numbers before. But we're going into this season, and that regression has been much worse than we imagined. But there are certain players, if you have Lamar Jackson, he's going to get you running stats to give you a good number at quarterback. We were hoping somebody in that offense would stand out. And outside of getting Mark Andrews, there's nobody else. I have Hollywood Brown, and
yeah.
I'm just sitting there can I play him? Is it a smart idea? Most of the time, at best, I put him in the flex. Who on this offense does it make sense to have outside of Lamar Jackson?
I still like the option of Mark Andrews at tight end. I like everyone needs a tight end in fantasy football, whether it's top tier or middle tier, and Andrews is right there. I would say in the top tier for fantasy tight ends. I just required Marquise Brown in a trade actually this week. I put him on the bench right now, just seeing what he can do later on down the season, because at some point this offense will click and start rolling, and it could possibly be in this game because last week we saw both teams get out to an early lead, and then their defenses not be able to contain the Titans and the Eagles, and look what happened. It came down to a field goal in the Steelers game, and the Ravens only won by 2 points. So look for defenses. Look for both defenses to maybe stop the first offensive drives, but I think this is a game where there's just too many weapons on both teams, because I like what Chase Claypool is doing on the other end. He was quiet last week, but that's all right. Deontay Johnson, it was his game, and it was his turn to step in. This week it could be Claypool's, but yeah, I expect both defenses maybe to slow down later on in the game, and we'll see both offenses start rolling.
All right, you piqued my interest. I know
Okay.
The old adage is don't talk about fantasy football. Nobody cares about your team, but I'm a weirdo. I 100% care. You just told me you traded for Hollywood Brown, but did not tell me what you had to give up to get him. Break down that trade because we're ready to criticize you. What happened?
All right, so I really needed a quarterback, so I traded. I was with my It was with my dad, so there's some sympathy in it. He's in the bottom of the league. I noticed he needed some help, so I gave him Stephon Diggs and Ronald Jones for Marquise Roethlisberger, and I think DeAndre Swift also.
Okay, there's so much there that I can't really criticize. For a minute, I was like, "What is happening?"
He needed
for your father.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
He needed players that were going now, and I knew Stephon Diggs had some good games, and Ronald Jones was starting to fill in some type of role in Buccaneers and down in Tampa. And I think DeAndre, could be a nice investment later on. We'll see what happens over in Detroit.
Oh yeah, he trade robbed you. It's fine. It's not a big deal. You got a guy who occasionally has a game that's still not as good as Tyreek Hill. That's fine. That's a good decision to make, I guess. Anything else from this game that really stands out for me? The only thing I'm going to be focused on is Big Ben. Where is he at? Because we were talking about Lamar. Is he good or is he great? It's the same conversation I end up having with Josh Allen. Whatever that floor is so freaking high. We don't need to talk about how great of a passer Lamar Jackson is. he is a phenomenal runner, and even this year where it is not produced at the level it was last year, it is still a scary thing to face. When he isn't able to get the throws down the field, he is still able to do damage. And I think their biggest problem is that when they start to lose, when they are down like they were Chiefs, they get scared and let Lamar start chucking it down the field. Don't. Play out through 4 quarters. Lamar can get you back into the game even if you're running the whole time. Maybe do some hurry up and keep it going, but make sure that you're still doing, what brought you to the dance. On the other side for the Steelers, Big Ben has had flashes of that old self, and maybe all he needed was Claypool thrown in to get back to where he needs to be, but it's still, like, he hasn't proven to me that he can still do that consistently week to week. And if he can, this is a scary, scary Steelers team. If he can't, I think this is a team that looks good when you are beating some of the bad teams early on, and then I just don't know how often you can beat teams even of the caliber of the Titans. Or if you're getting into, this passing game back and forth with Patrick Mahomes, is that something Big Ben can still match him, pass for pass, score for score? I'm not sure. So I want to see going up against a Ravens defense. And we know that when you have a weakness at quarterback, this is a defense that will exploit it to my advantage. I have them as my fantasy defense. The only time I've ever not gotten rid of a defense and just subbed somebody in on their bye week, that Ravens took up a spot on my bench when they were on a bye, because there is no way I'm getting rid of that, particularly in my league with its ridiculous defensive scoring. So can Big Ben hold up? That'll be what I watch for. And if he can, then I will start to believe the hype train for the Steelers this year. Going forward, we'll throw in another game if there's one that somebody wants to talk about before we get to Seahawks 49ers. Is there any game that you guys are looking at on the slate here that seems like we have to talk about it, not including Chiefs, Jets, and Patriots, Bills? As I said, we'll definitely get around to that here at the end here. But anything that's standing out from you guys?
Well, the obvious game is the Falcons and the Panthers on Thursday night.
I thought you were going to save that for hypothetical sports bets.
We just gotta bring up the quick question: will the Falcons blow a fourth quarter lead? The answer is yes, because it's fantastic and I love it. And I thank Todd Gurley because I got a fantasy dub because of his flub.
Man, like, have you ever seen? And me and Marco were talking about this on the last pod. Like, have you ever seen a running back make that play where they end up getting into the touchdown when they shouldn't have, and they actually immediately knew they were wrong? Like, I think Gurley's the first one that, like, he did it, and he's like, damn it. Like, he knew he lost them the game by scoring a touchdown. I think generally they score, and it's the rest of us, like, pointing to it. Then maybe, like, 10 seconds later after the touchdown celebration, the person who scored is like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But Gurley knew immediately, like, I just screwed this one up.
Yeah, and what's interesting is a couple years ago, didn't Gurley fall down on a long touchdown run late in the game? And a lot of people complained from a fantasy perspective because he fell down on like the 3-yard line or whatever it was. Like, he knew, he had the foresight. But yeah, it was really strange because, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the NFL films after a couple days later, but they can see Matt Ryan clearly tells him, hey, fall down, don't score. And he says, yes, I understand. So it was very strange.
He knew. It's just, you know, like, you're in the moment, you're going, and it's like, when do you fall down? Do you try to go down at the 10? If you pull up early, like, does somebody end up knocking the ball out? So, like, it's hard to put yourself in the position of a player who they have been trained since they were little kids, get into the end zone at all costs. We will figure out the strategy later. Go and score. And so to even in the situation, and you were just told 10 seconds before, I know I don't listen very well, so if my coach had told me that, I would have gone for the touchdown, and I would have celebrated. And then when they scolded me afterwards, I'd be like, Coach, I put points on the board. That's it. So I can't blame Todd Gurley. It's just interesting that he is one of the guys that he was aware, he knew to feel bad immediately because he's like, we're going to lose in the fourth quarter again, aren't we? And this time from actually being good at what we were doing. So that was interesting to see that from him. I'm not interested in that game at all, Bobby, but it is one of the Thursday night miracles. It doesn't matter who it is. There's nothing else going on. So that game, it's probably going to be a barn burner. We're going to have fun with it. I'm not going to like when Bobby makes us bet on it here in a bit. We can go Seahawks 49ers. This is one where it's already interesting. Seahawks every game. The cliche is already there. The joke is there. Every game that's a Seahawks game is ridiculous. There's no way around it. Every game for the 49ers this year has been pretty close to that too. They're winning games when they have the backup in. They're getting smoked when Jimmy G makes it back in. There are games where they are completely shutting down the opposing offense. There are games where they are getting smoked. It is all over the map for the 49ers. And to take that in, you have two combustible elements, two teams that all we know is chaos will ensue on the field. I don't know how anybody can plan their Sunday around anything other than watching this game. Going in, what do you think is the most interesting part of this, besides the fact that I feel like the 49ers are a losing football team, and they're, 4-3, 4-2 right now? Like, what's the most compelling part of Seahawks 49ers facing off on Sunday?
I'm just going to go with
everybody.
Well, I mean, the most compelling part is probably which Jimmy G is going to show up and which 49ers team is going to show up. But I honestly think the Seahawks are going to come out firing on this one. You had Russ throwing 3 picks. I'm sure that's probably the first time it's ever happened to him in his career. He's going to come out cooking, and I'm just going to throw it out now. Seahawks are going to win by 21+.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's strong.
I actually feel pretty confident. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you can go ahead. I just wanted to make one offline. Like, have they ever won by 21+? Like, it feels like every Seahawks game is 3 points.
I was just going to say that I don't really feel confident about a lot of the picks this week. This feels like a really tough week to come up with, some of your favorite bets. But 49ers +3 might be one of my favorite bets of the week. Just because I feel like, Mac just alluded to it, but it feels like the 49ers haven't played that well, and they're 4-3, and a win this week would be huge in that division. So I almost feel like Seahawks started off so hot. Russell Wilson started off so hot. It almost feels like maybe some of that's going to come down to little earth because that defense isn't good. And whereas Kyle Shanahan obviously is very good. So I think I feel a little bit more confident in the 49ers +3 compared to most bets on the slate. That's not saying a whole lot though, because I don't feel very confident in a lot of the bets, but I just feel like, the Seahawks, they have glaring weaknesses as a team. And it just doesn't seem right that they're going to run away with this division.
Well, we got a 49ers +3. We got a Bobby who's saying 20-point blowout for the Seahawks. This is feeling a lot like the Filet-O-Fish bet of the week, but we'll figure that out later. I'll give Bobby some time to think about it.
We got bets to make, Mac, and you're going to love them.
He's going to pick all the worst games.
Yep.
All right, so let's hit some of our favorites there. Me and Bobby have been doing Chiefs Patriots almost as a face-off. That's how this show started, so there's no way for us to get around it. I'll give Bobby a little bit more time to stew about his recent Patriots performances that he's been watching. But Chiefs going up against the Jets, and this one is only interesting, unless it becomes a game like the Jets made it last week with the Bills. But it's because Le'Veon Bell apparently, I don't know how much this factored in, but when he was talking about who were the teams that Le'Veon Bell could go to, it was like the Chiefs and like the 3 other teams on the Jets schedule coming up. So it was like very quickly, Le'Veon Bell wants to be facing the New York Jets, and he wants to embarrass Adam Gase, which is a weird thing to go after because isn't Adam Gase doing a good enough job of embarrassing himself? But Le'Veon Bell's been very focused on it. He's going to get the chance. It would be more interesting if there was a few more weeks to give Le'Veon Bell time, but Le'Veon Bell first run, it was like 16, 17 yards, something like that, which is like his longest run going back to he had one for the Jets 2 years ago, I think, or maybe it was the longest run since he was last with the Steelers. But he does that on the first run with the Chiefs, has one play where he doesn't look up and you get Chubb jumping just out of the freaking stadium, and Patrick Mahomes ends up trying to go around him but can't and gets sacked. But if that one goes Le'Veon Bell, he waltzes in the end zone. So they're already putting him in there. He already is in plays that matter. And going into a Jets game, I feel like Andy Reid's willing to give him a few more just to see what he can do. Because it's like you go with the hot hand. In this case, we don't know if Le'Veon Bell's the hot hand, but we do know he has the most to gain from playing well in this one. So I'll be interested to see how many carries. And we'll do this as a little mini bet here. Over under number of touches for Le'Veon Bell in this game against the Jets. We'll start with Marco. He's just been quiet up there in the corner.
Well, because I'm thinking of a number. How many touches did he have last game? 4?
I don't know, man.
I don't know
My
either.
computer doesn't move fast enough to find that information.
Neither does mine. I'm gonna say over 6.5, because I think that this is gonna be a game where it's probably gonna be another defensive game. You have another team that's weak at the quarterback position. We just saw what they did against the Denver Broncos. The offense didn't have to do as much, and I think that's what's going to happen in this game. I think we'll see the Chiefs run the ball a lot, and I think that means we'll see them running. I think that means we'll see a lot of Le'Veon coming in. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be felt like a long game, but it's going to be short because the Chiefs are going to be chewing up the clock on offense.
All right, fair enough. All right, I'm looking at the stats here.
He had 6 carries, so that was a very good line by Marco.
Wow.
All right, and they threw it to him at least once. 'Cause I know there was that one play, and I feel like there was probably at least another target, but I'm not. Let me roll down here. I don't know. He's not on the list of receivers because he didn't catch one, but he had at least one target. So, that we'll keep it at that. We'll keep it at 7.5 over under. And Marco, what do you got?
I'm gonna say I'll still say the over.
All right,
because
Yeah, I think it would go over 6 carries last week, so it just means 2 more. I feel like there's going to be a concerted effort in the red zone a few times to get him the ball and get a touchdown.
Bobby, what do we got over there?
I'm going to go over mainly because I think this is going to be a blowout real quick, and you're not going to want to keep your starters in. And Le'Veon Bell's a pretty good backup, and you're going to want to get him familiar with the offense, so he's going to probably be in for most of the fourth quarter.
All right, I hate having everybody in agreement, but it seems likely that it's going to be over. I'm going to go over. Let's try a harder one here. So touchdowns. We'll go a half because at this point he's a backup. Over under.
Easy under.
Shane?
Yeah, I think the numbers would suggest under because he'd probably be plus something to score a touchdown. So, but I'll say over because I do think the Chiefs will make an effort to give him a touchdown, and I think the revenge narrative is always overblown, but this is actually real.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like he made it explicit, so it's not this just some guy went to another team. It's I don't want to play for this asshat who doesn't know how to call offenses, which normally is a player overreacting. I won't say that about Le'Veon Bell. Marco, are you taking the over/under on half a touchdown?
Yeah, over. Love the vendetta about it.
All right, I'm gonna split it here. I'm gonna go under because it's just more likely he doesn't score, and even if he has a really good game, the chances of it, it's tough because Andy Reid, like Shade's right, like it's not even just getting him more carries, more touches. It's that there's probably going to be a play on the goal line where at the very least Le'Veon Bell is going to be the decoy to make him think, hey, we're trying to do this, and it'll end up being like a shovel pass to Travis Kelce or some shit. So we'll see what happens. It's tough to figure out, but that game, I'm only interested as a Chiefs fan. I wouldn't blame anybody else for not watching it because I'm not mad at the Bills for not blowing out the Jets. I mean, it happens. They recovered. They got the victory. It's just tough because they're having a tough few weeks. We'll see if they get back on track. But Chiefs right now, you go and you face a Broncos team where your offense doesn't even play well and you still blow them out. Do not let up. Do not have that even close to a trap game where you come in not prepared to just beat that holy hell out of the Jets. Like, that'll really upset me if they don't do it. Because you've had too many games this year where your offense hasn't played well. You can't do that against this Jets team that doesn't even have a defense. So that's where I'm at on that one. Now to talk about a team who lost their defense and then their offense ain't going too well either. We're going to the stocking cap on Bobby's head. Patriots right now, Cam Newton just playing poorly, and then there's some of it's situational. I know that last interception was a tip ball, but he did throw it behind the receiver, so that's still also on him a bit. The offense isn't good, and as I talked with Marco on the last podcast about that defense, don't compare it to what Tom Brady had last year because none of that's there. But also, this is a Patriots team that has failed to try to put more weapons around an offense. And as you just lost one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, we're going to replace him with a guy who hasn't played well in 3 years, and we're still not going to give him any more options. Bobby, how do you feel about the Patriots right now and where they stand?
I feel like it's a great time to fire sale what you do have on the defense because, like you said, the defense isn't the same. Hightower opted out. You lost Collins. You lost Van Noy. They really didn't have a great pass rusher last year. Sorry. So trade Gilmore to the Bucks. Trade Devin McCourty to the Eagles. Start praying to the heavens that Cam Newton does something for the second half of the season. So when you don't re-sign him, you get a 3rd-round pick. Go about 3-13, and then trade up for Trevor Lawrence and restart everything over again.
That's bold. Even watching them, I'm not sure if it's a 3-13 team, particularly with Bill Belichick there. Because even looking at who are they facing this week, I just know every time I look at a Patriots game, I'm like, they're playing awful. They're facing the Bills. Bill Belichick knows how to deal with the Bills. Like, I can't even convince myself, as bad as they are 2-4, they can, like, they're just going to lose against this team that's playing much better this year. I'm still like, I guess I got to go with the Patriots on this -2.5. I can't bring myself to think the Patriots can be a 3-13 team, even with all they've lost this year.
Well, I mean, if you look at that offense outside of Edelman, their offensive skill weapons are on par with the Jets, basically.
Yeah, but the Jets have Adam Gase. The Patriots have Bill Belichick. I'm still having a tough time with this. Shane, when you're looking at the Patriots, you were nodding to a few of the things Bobby said, which rarely happens on this pod. Nobody ever agrees with him. What would you do? And are any of those destinations for those players, does those sound accurate?
Well, trading for Trevor Lawrence is what everyone wants to do, I think. But how likely it is probably going to be a big question when it gets to the draft time. But no, I think trading away a fire sale is in play for a lot of teams who maybe don't feel like they are actually real contenders. And there was people who thought the Patriots might do this before the year. Before they signed Cam Newton late in, July or whatever. Like, they thought, hey, this could be a tank for Trevor situation. No, it wouldn't surprise me if Patriots decided to fire sale, but also it wouldn't surprise me if the Patriots just win this week. Like, it's hard to count out Bill Belichick and this team in this division. That said, the Bills -3.5 is also one of the early considerations for my favorite pick of the week, which I like to do with one of my buddies, just send a lock of the week. And it just feels like the Bills last week, kind of, that may have been a look ahead spot for them playing the Jets. And I don't think they punted at all. They just kept settling for field goals instead of touchdowns. And it just felt like, this is their chance. This is their chance to take over the division after the Patriots have owned it for multiple decades now. So I feel like this is what they're playing for. And so it feels like a Bills by 20 type of week, or Bills just lose. It doesn't feel like, hey, cover the number and win by 6.
I do want to say, you mentioned the idea that before the season it looked like they were planning for the fire sale. That was a proven fact when we saw Jared Stidham throw 7 interceptions in like 20 attempts. He's given Nathan Peterman a run for the meme title that Bobby gives out each year. So there is no way that Bill Belichick is that bad at evaluating quarterback talent that he was like, yeah, this Jared Stidham kid, this is the right move. Like, he had 2 options. Originally, they're setting up for, we're going to have a bad season, keep with Stidham. Once they got Cam Newton to the right number, it's like, hey, let's give it a go and see what happens. But there's no way Bill Belichick looked at Stidham and thought, yeah, that's an NFL quarterback. Marco, any other takeaways from Patriots Bills? Like, if you're willing to talk about how Josh Allen is still an MVP candidate, it could just be the two of us talking for a while. We can get rid of Shane and Bobby for a bit.
Hey, 16 touchdowns on the season so far. I feel like I feel like he may struggle this week though with the Patriots corners, but I'm always willing to talk about Josh Allen being a MVP quarterback. It's still a long season. No, but going off Bobby's take, Patriots and Jets do play each other to finish out the season. Be like the big game for the number 1 pick. I don't know. Maybe
the over-under is probably going to be like 39.
There you go. Maybe Belichick puts McCourty and Gilmore together and trades them to the Jets for a first-round pick. I don't know. Forces Adam Gase over the phone. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
Is Adam Gase in control? Is he going to make those bad decisions? Isn't he restricted to bad decisions on the football field?
Isn't putting players out there on the field part of that, though?
Yeah, you get the GM messing up. The Adam Gase is just there to pretend that, if I got better players, I could pull this off. Not like I've screwed up everywhere I've been. Not like every Dolphin player I coach became significantly better the moment they got away from him. But yeah, that's enough talking about Jets. That's too much for even me. Enough talking about Patriots when they're bad. Actually, there's never enough of that. I just want to do it I want to do an entire podcast where I just get to break down everything about the Patriots that's bad. We've had to talk about them being good for way too long, and I just want Bobby to have to sit there and listen to every bit of it.
I'm just glad there's other Josh Allen for MVP people out there. I didn't realize there were others out there because I'm all in on that train.
It took a hit. The last
yeah, that's true.
Very difficult. But he's still my fantasy football MVP. I got Josh Allen. I got the Baltimore Ravens defense. I took the Falcons kicker. Basically, I've been winning off of like a quarterback position that, shouldn't really matter because everybody should have a good quarterback. If you have a bad quarterback, you don't understand how fantasy football works, or you're in like a 20-plus team fantasy league, which why would you do that to yourself? And the defense and kicker, like normally people aren't winning off that. I literally outscored the guy of a quarterback, kicker, and defense 1 week because of Josh Allen, Baltimore Ravens, and the Falcons kicker. That's partially because that guy's team sucked, but those three just ball it out for me. So I'm still holding in there with Josh Allen. But on the actual MVP train, he's gonna need to not beat teams like the Jets by 7 points. Like you gotta improve just a little bit.
Step one is winning the AFC East. Yeah. They can put themselves in good position with a win this week. And then all of a sudden you're maybe the 2-3 seed in the AFC, and that's very much in the conversation for MVP. That's why I'm on them at 40-1 or 45-1, whatever it was in April. So
it also it helps that everybody else that was the front runners early on backed off. Even before Russell Wilson had the 3 interceptions, the team is just in so many tight games that it's going to be hard for them to get to the 13-3 type season to get yourself. Because we know that's like such a huge factor in the MVP. If you don't have that record, very rarely are they going to look and just be like, well, you balled out on a 10-6 team, so you're MVP. Aaron Rodgers looked perfect until the Bucs took it away. And then maybe you push that crown over to Tom Brady to be funny, but still, that's just not where it's at. And I don't even know who it is after that. It might be just Mike Davis. Like, it literally is like, it's normally Christian McCaffrey, and the fact that Mike Davis could step in and do it and keep this Panthers team winning. I don't know what award he deserves, but he deserves something. Mostly it's just apologies from me for being so mean to him when Christian McCaffrey was, that I had to eat my word almost immediately with Mike Davis. So I'm not sure who the MVP frontrunner is anymore.
I still think it's Russell Wilson. I think he's still the front runner. I think he's the betting favorite right now still.
That's fair.
And
Kyler Murray, though, he outdueled him.
Yeah. Step one is winning your division, and if Russell Wilson doesn't win the division, it's going to be hard to win the MVP no matter what numbers you put up. So, in the NFC West, there's no guarantee you win it. So,
I'm going to give it to Kyler Murray. His feet move really fast.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I care about on the award. That's Lamar Jackson had a great year. The only thing I was worried about is his feet move really fast. Like that's where I'm at now because Bobby jokes that he's a really good running back. Well, you know what? We don't appreciate running backs anymore. Bobby spends all this time on this podcast being mean to running backs, and it's not the running back's fault. Like they just don't build them like they used to. Nobody's gonna be Bo Jackson running for 350 yards. We're just in a different era because definitely Bo Jackson could run for 350 yards. Which this is a good immediate topic that I forgot existed. Now we're gonna hit it. Nick Wright goes on whatever show's happening. I don't watch Fox Sports. I have no idea what the actual name of the show is, but he's talking about Bo Jackson and I don't even know which argument's worse. Bo Jackson thinking he can run for 300 yards a game in today's NFL, or Nick Wright going with Bo Jackson overrated. Wildly overrated, I think is the direct quote. Who's more ridiculous, Bo Jackson or Nick Wright?
Bo Jackson, because I live off the dreams of being able to be a hot take artist on Fox Sports, like Skip and Nick Wright, and I guess Cowherd's technically on Fox Sports because he's on FS1. So those people still give me hope, Mac.
That's fair. I just want to be on, where's Dan Patrick? It's like NBC Sports Network.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I want to be. Like a 4-hour morning show where they're paying him millions of dollars for like 4 people that still listen to him because they never gave him up after he left ESPN. Like that's the type of job I want. The problem is you got to have that long career at ESPN first, and I'm not quite pulling that off right now. So No, like for a minute, like I think I almost let Nick Wright convince me. Like I know Bo Jackson's is more ridiculous, but I just chalk it up to old people having fun. Because what else are they gonna do? Like, just this idea that this is a soft league, I could do so much better, and it's like, how much better does Bo Jackson think he is than Derrick Henry? You know, like, just look at the numbers and know that the idea that these arm tackles, nobody can pull anybody down. Like, they're pulling down Derrick Henry now. Josh Normans of the world are getting embarrassed, but eventually Derrick Henry's pulled down before he runs for 300 yards a game. So calm down, Bo Jackson. On the other side, the idea of Nick Wright, who I feel like is more often he's like the anti-Skip Bayless. When you get the really dumb arguments like people make about like the LeBron Jordan debates, like maybe he goes overboard on the LeBron side, but he generally stops people from bringing up the dumb stats that aren't real. So then when you go Bo Jackson and you try to say, Brandon Marshall, you have as many 1,000-yard rushing seasons as Bo Jackson, as if that's a real like critique of Bo Jackson, who never played a full season because he spent half the year playing baseball. Like, shut the hell up, Nick. Like, that's ridiculous. Bo Jackson was on pace. Like, I think he played 38 games and had 2,700 yards, so he was basically on pace for 1,200 plus yards each year. That's considering he came in cold. He'd play like 11 games, but the first 2 he didn't start because he was still getting back with the team after finishing the baseball season in the fall. So, no, Bo Jackson is not wildly overrated. I think we don't talk about him nearly enough, and we don't play his game nearly enough. And that's the only thing I can play anymore because Madden has gotten too advanced for me. I am old. I don't know how to win anymore. It's a tough game. Have you guys played Madden 20? Like, man, they've made it difficult. I'm sticking with 2K from now on. That's all I got in my life anymore. I'm probably going to be bad at that soon. So Marco taking off. I'm sorry he didn't make it to the hypothetical sports bet. He's going to go jump in on the radio. So just us here. I think we knocked out the NFL stuff. I think we can do Bobby's hypothetical sports bets, and then we can move on to a little bit of NCAA football talk. And I still do want to get around to talk a little bit about NBA's plan to try to come back at Christmas and how that might play out. Bobby, you ready to go on our viewers' favorite segment of 20 points?
It's got the most excitement that I can have. So we're gonna start off with Thursday night football and this fantastic game. You got the Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are -2 right now.
Yeah, I told you before I didn't care about this. I don't want to do this. I'm gonna go Panthers just because I can't believe the Falcons will ever win a game, even when they play well. So no reason for me to pick the Falcons at all.
Oh, do I give an answer now? I've never done this
Yeah.
segment, so okay. Yeah, I'm doing Panthers -2. I'm actually excited about this game. I guess I'm the only one. I'm very into Joe Brady and being one of the hottest names as a head coaching candidate here in a year or two. So a chance to watch him on prime time. I had Teddy Bridgewater in a dynasty league, so I'm interested in this game. And yes, the Falcons won't ever play a normal game, but I still think the Panthers -2 makes sense.
How long have you had Teddy Bridgewater in this dynasty league?
Well, I traded Cam Newton when he signed to the Patriots for him. So
Okay. So you were smart.
Yes.
Very thrifty move. I was hoping you had him before the injury, and you're just like,
No.
I can't quit Teddy.
No, just sold high on Cam Newton, which with the highest I could get at the time was Teddy Bridgewater. So
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around a dynasty league because I already spend way too much time on my fantasy football app. So if I'm doing it with like planning ahead for years to come, my wife would leave me. So, Bobby, what's the next game on the list?
Well, first off, I'm going to pick the Panthers -2 as well, and I'm looking at a big game from Curtis Samuel this week. But next up, we got the Patriots at the Bills. We're going to go with the Bills -4. Go ahead, Mac.
I got to go with my savior, Josh Allen. I got to go the Bills on this one.
You were talking all that smack about believing in Belichick, and you're not even going to bet on him?
Mm-hmm.
This is a
Fraud.
This is two people. This is the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. And as it turns out, I'd rather watch the Patriots lose. So I'm going to bet on my fantasy football savior. I have to go with Josh Allen. I expect him to get back on track MVP. I feel like this is a week where he performs really well, but the caveat is, yeah, but you're facing a Patriots team that isn't playing well right now. This is a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you lose, it's business as usual. Of course the Patriots beat the Bills. This is what happens. Bill Belichick knows how to win divisional games. If they end up winning, then Buffalo, you beat a sorry Patriots team. It's not fair to Josh Allen, but I think that's just the first step in him getting back on track for that MVP. We all know Josh Allen's going to win this year.
Yeah, I'm only nervous about this game because I feel like everyone has tried to bury the Patriots too soon for now 7 years, and that's always come to blowing up in our face. But I actually feel like this is it. Like, this is the Bills are taking over the AFC East, and I feel like they're going to win by double digits. So I'm taking the Bills minus whatever the number was. I already forgot the original number because I feel like they're just going to run away. This is their Super Bowl of the regular season. This is their game. So I think this is a big win for the Bills.
Also, to mention this before Bobby gives us Moss being back, like you're having guys that I think we overestimated how good Singletary was going to be for them out of the backfield. And when you have that combo, I don't even think it's one of the. I think if Singletary was to get injured and then it's Moss, neither one is going to be as strong. But the two of them together with the way Josh Allen runs, it is an unstoppable force, and he was still just kind of getting back into the flow last week. If he's ready to go this week, I think you're going to start to see that offense look a lot more like they looked early in the year, which is one about the running game, but two is going to open up that passing game and make it easier for Josh Allen to find wide open wide receivers down the field, which sadly is where he's at right now. He's not nearly accurate enough to find covered guys and use his arm to his advantage. But if that running game makes it hard and you have to pick your poison, eventually guys will be open, and Josh Allen has the arm to at least get the ball in their area code, and that offense does a lot of damage. So we'll see if they can get back on track this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bills -4. I've been wearing the beanie for a bit, and I already have a bit planned with it. So in the next couple weeks, the Patriots, they're going to officially be buried for me. At least the dynasty. I'm saying the dynasty.
Yeah.
We all know.
Have a funeral procession. You're going to have like a eulogy planned, ready to go?
I got something planned, and it's going to be a heel turn for me.
You have not been a heel so far? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I've been
the face of this podcast.
I've been a cheeky baby face.
Fuck off, Bob. Jesus Christ.
All right, next up, I think this is where it gets interesting because you got the New York Jets at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are -20.
Chiefs.
And this is an NFL game.
Shane, say Chiefs and we can move on.
Yeah, I picked the Chiefs in CBS, the Pick'em League or whatever, and I didn't feel great about it. But the Jets, they can't score enough to cover this number. That's the thing that scares me. I'm not scared of the backdoor cover because the Jets can't score.
And the Chiefs just scored 43 in a game where the offense didn't play well.
Yeah.
And that's as bad as the Broncos are. They're head and shoulders above the Jets.
Well, I'm going to stay on brand because I always said anything over 10 is ridiculous. Anything close to 20 is ridiculous. So I'm going to take the points, and I'm going to pray to God that the Jets somehow get 2 touchdowns.
Just
it won't happen.
For our listeners, Bobby is getting smoked in the bets this year, so maybe take his advice with a grain of salt.
It's getting desperate, boys. It's getting a little desperate. All right, now we're going to move on to the real trash game because I know how much you love these games, Mac. You got the Dallas Cowboys at the Eagles. The Eagles are -9.
Oh, my goodness. I did not see this number. Wow.
Eagles. Who's playing? Who's the James Madison kid? Who's actually playing?
Ben Denitru. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm gonna
I'll
mess
take
it
the
up.
Cowboys. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I will. If it's +9 or whatever that number is, I'm taking the Cowboys in that situation because I have been kind of anti-Eagles, anti-Carson Wentz for a long time, just because one of my best friends is a huge Carson Wentz and Eagles fan, and I just try to bring him back to earth every now and then by showing him bad plays. But no, that's too big of a number. Division rivalry for both teams not really playing that well. So yeah, I'll take Cowboys +9.
Well, I think we just had a division game with both teams not playing very well, and the Cowboys lost by about 20. So I'm going to take the Eagles -9 and instantly regret it when Carson Wentz is throwing to ghosts and no one else.
I'm going to love when Carson Wentz is going to win the game on a last-second play that renews Shane's friend's just love affair with Carson Wentz. And it's going to be for nothing. It's against a crappy Cowboys team. It's not even going to get close to covering the spread, and that's how the game will finish. So just be prepared, because that's the only way the Eagles know how to win games.
The thing is that Carson Wentz is actually fine. It's just that 1 year where he had an MVP-like year, I think people got a bit out of control with the hype around him. Like, he's not the best quarterback in the NFL.
When Nick Foles just duplicated it when he walked into his place, and you're like, maybe something else was at play.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about that season anymore, Matt. We're moving on.
Do we not want to do 30 minutes on the finale of that season? Do we
No.
talk about that Super Bowl?
No, I was already getting PT.
I was working that night. I was putting the LJ World newspaper together that night. So I did. What happened in that game?
You know what? All I need to say is when Todd Gurley stumbled into the end zone, I was getting PTSD flashbacks from Bradshaw doing that to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I was like, we got chances now, guys.
All right, Marco brought that up last week. I guess Brandon Jacobs. Like, we were trying to figure out which running back was the one who fell at the.
It was Bradshaw. He like tried to turn around and sit down. And I think like Brandon Spikes just pushed him into the end zone. I was like, we got chances, boys. It's not going to happen, but we got chances. All right, to finish up the week, we got another fantastic spread because I'm staying on point. You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New York Football Giants. And it is the Buccaneers minus 12.
Wow.
I can't go minus 12. No Bucks for me. Not happening. I hate you, Bobby. I freaking hate you. And I got to go Bucks. I can't even like pretend to root for the Giants to do anything. I'm going to go Bucks.
I'm going to go the Giants if it's 12. I think that's too big of a number. I am in on the Bucks. So a couple weeks ago, I talked my buddy into placing an 18-1 future on the Bucks to win the Super Bowl. This was before the Packers game, so very in on the Bucks in general. But that's too many points. Daniel Jones hasn't played as bad as maybe the numbers would indicate. I think he covers that big of a number.
I love the glowing just description of not playing as bad as people think, which is horrendous.
Yes, he's played terrible, but like not that bad.
He's not. It's not like he plays for Adam Gase. He plays for the other New York team, so he's just sort of awful. Not too bad.
You know, normally I'd take the Bucks minus 12, but I got to start a comeback somehow. So I'm just gonna once again pray a New York football team sneaks in a couple of tutties and I get the points. So I'm gonna take the Giants.
Man. I feel like you've just been doing this all year. You just keep digging yourself deeper in a hole by doing this sort of, this is where I'll make up ground, by picking a bad decision. Like, I'm going to go against what I know about football, and this is my way of getting back in this one. This is why you owe me so many Filet-O-Fish.
See, the thing is, though, we never had where we picked similar games. You always got to pick a game, and I pick a game.
You were the one who got to pick the order, man.
I know, but I'm just saying it's not like we're going head to head on both picks.
I guess that's fair. This is the Wild Wild West. We don't know how this will play out. We just know that Bobby's down 7. So
those were disgusting games, by the way. Disgusting games that you picked.
That's every week.
That's every week for 3 years now.
It's called Bobby's hypothetical sports bets, not to avoid the possible legal ramifications of real bets, but because this is hypothetical about whether we'll even watch this stupid game he picked. And the answer is almost always yes, because it's NFL. We don't do anything else. But anything else? We didn't do a Filet-O-Fish bet yet.
The Filet-O-Fish bet. Sorry, that was the Ravens game. So we got the Steelers at the Ravens. We're paying out fish fillet next week, guys.
Yeah, we're gonna die.
Yeah. So you got the Steelers at the Ravens. The Ravens are minus 4.
I'm gonna go Steelers. I don't really trust it, but you're gonna give them points when they're the undefeated team. That means you're gonna have a team that is already playing really well and gets to play the card in the locker room that we're being overlooked. That's usually makes for a pretty good performance. Divisional rivalry, so they already have reason to be fired up. And if this is I always go back to the Toby Keith song, I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once I ever was. That is the description for Big Ben until future notice. And this is the type of game where I do think he will play out of his mind, even if over the next few games he might revert back to Broken Ben. So I'm going to go Steelers on this one.
I always pick against the Ravens in my CBS pick'em because I'm superstitious and I feel like I'm the reason why they win or lose. But I will pick the Ravens -4. The Ravens finally have, I think, the chip back on their shoulder a little bit. People are counting them out a little bit, and this defense is still really good. I mean, that's what's fascinating about this game is they're two similar teams. They're the two blitz heaviest teams in the NFL. They're two really good defenses, and both quarterbacks have flaws. So that's what's really fascinating about this game. But give me the Ravens in a big division game that helps, them get back as one of the better teams in the NFL.
If I was betting the money line, I'd be taking the Ravens, but I think this is going to be a 3-point game, so I'm going to take the Steelers and the points on this one.
Fair.
All right. That's all we got for everybody's favorite monotone segment, Bobby's Hypothetical Sports Bets. And now we'll move on real quick. We don't have too much time. We'll try to get out of here in an hour. That's kind of the game plan. We've never really pulled it off, but occasionally it's happened. Talking about college football, I looked on the schedule and tried to see if there's any big matchups, and even with Big Ten back in play, still just not a lot of games that really stand out to me. But I also know very little about college football, and it did look like, big game that we talked about from last week was Penn State losing, and then this week coming back in, having to face Ohio State, which is never a good team to have on your schedule. So looking at that game, what's the chances that Penn State, who came in with one of their highest rankings in a lot of years, is now about to start the season 0-2 on a shortened Big Ten slate of games? I'll go Shane on this one. Bobby doesn't.
You asking me?
Yeah, you're the only
I
person who's tuned into college football right now. Me and
well,
Bobby
I'm only tuned into
somehow.
KU and I guess a little bit the Big 12. But yes, Ohio State was considered like a national championship favorite by most models before we even knew the Big Ten was coming back. So that is rough. And I think I just glanced at the spread and it was 12 points for Ohio State. Without really knowing anything much about either team, I would probably take Ohio State in that situation. It was back to what Bobby was talking about with the tanking for Trevor Lawrence. I think Justin Fields is more of a reasonable solution for a lot of teams like the Patriots. That's who you probably should be taking for, because it feels like the Jets are almost a lock to go over 0-16, even though that hardly ever happens. But yeah, no, I think I would take Ohio State in that situation.
All right, that's fair. I'm on board too. I think it's tough because, when you're facing a really good team like that, and also one that got to start before you. I think we kind of saw with the way the Sun Belt played that first week of the season, where they were getting more practices in than everybody else. Like, it's very important to get as many close to live reps as you can to get a whole game before another team starts the season. That can be an advantage for Penn State, particularly in a game where, one, they want revenge for losing by inches. You played well, even if it was losing to a team. We'll see how good Indiana actually is throughout the rest of the year, but that gives you that jump start. That gives you a chance to be ready to go, and maybe you can get ahead of an Ohio State team. But Ohio State should be good enough to win no matter how well Penn State plays. The question is whether that's good enough for 12 points. I think it is. I think particularly with how good they're supposed to be, unless, all of the people talking about what they have on their team are just a little bit off, this should be a team that's capable of beating the crap out of a Penn State team. And even with that extra week, I got to go Ohio State on that one. Bobby, any answer on that? Oh, I'll let Shane jump in with his.
I would say, isn't that the most disappointing thing about college football? I mean, you guys, it seems like you don't really watch it as much. Isn't that the most disappointing thing, that Ohio State's number 3 team in the country, Penn State's number 18, and it's a double-digit line? Like that's the disappointing thing about college football. Even when it's one of the best teams going against another really good team, it feels as lopsided as it should be.
But you have that as the spread. You also have times the spread's 30 and the team that was the underdog wins by double digits. Yeah. And so you have those type of things, and those have made me money. They've also ruined my 10-game parlays. I don't know why I'm making 10-game parlays, but I get bored sometimes, and college football has a lot of games. It's hard for me to stop at 5, and then I was like, I'll throw on another one, and another one, and I'll throw on the one that ends up killing my awesome bet. But, I think I like watching college football. I just don't pay attention because there's too much going on. My brain does not work fast enough to figure this out. And so when people come in and they talk very in-depth about what they know on these teams. If they're not an actual professional who covers it as part of their job, I just assume they're making shit up. Because there's no way you know that much about this many teams. Like, keeping up with the NFL is hard. Sunday Ticket has made it as easy as possible. And we still get into these podcasts where I'm like, let's not even talk about that game because I sort of saw one highlight and I'm not going to pretend to know about what happened because I know who scored a touchdown. Like, I'm not going to read box scores as expert analysis. So when I see that with college football, it makes it harder for me to pay attention because I'm like, what good game is happening? What two top 25 teams? I'll throw it on. I watch it. I just don't really know what's going on. I'm not going to pretend to do that when we talk on these podcasts. So
that's fair.
I'm a lot of things, but I'm only full of shit when I want to make a funny bit. I'm not full of shit to pretend I'm expert on anything. Any of the college football games that stand out to you?
I mean, the obvious bet is Iowa State minus 28 against KU. Put your house on that. Put your mom's house on that. Put your dog's house on that. If KU got absolutely smacked by K-State and their shitty freshman quarterback, I'll take Breece Hall and Bryce Purdy to put up, 49 plus on this KU team.
See, Bobby just did the bit. He just did I haven't watched, but I know everything about these teams. The box score. He pulled it out.
College football is like baseball to me. I'll bet on it. I'll pay attention during the games, and then the next week comes around, and I got to be like, who won this game? Because it all glazes over for me at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's just too much going on. But we moved to KU. We could have skipped it, but now we can't. Bobby has brought it to the table. I already had my long rant. Me and Marco went back and forth to save you guys the time of having to go back and listen to the podcast. Basically, I'm just sick of KU fans always talking about the quarterback. I'm sick of having these conversations about, is this the guy? That one's not the guy. Throw that guy in. It's like, until there's an offensive line that does its job, that looks like a college offensive line, or more importantly, a Division I offensive line, stop talking about the quarterback. Stop doing it. And of all the things I expected from Les Miles, I think we knew his personality. He seems like a guy who's he's eating grass. Look at that. He's so charismatic. But really, if you've listened to an interview, Shane's been there on Mondays. He's not a guy who is extremely captivating as a speaker. So we don't get to see him enough when he's with his players. I want to see how he motivates people. But I'm kind of worried because he's not motivating guys. And the one job I expected from him was to be an offensive line expert. I don't want to see the LSU offense that he had most years because that's the Stone Age of trying to run the ball and punting on 4th and 3 from the 40. I don't want to see that, but he brought that aspect. He hasn't brought that expertise on building an offensive line. Once he does that, I will start to pay attention to whether KU can rebuild. And if by the end of next year, if it doesn't look like he's on the path to getting that there, then let him go. I don't care how bad they get beaten games because they don't have the players to beat most of the Big 12 opponents they face. They just need to get that offensive line going. That's the whole point of avoiding JUCO transfers, is get guys as freshmen. By year 3, you need to have a crop of offensive linemen that can actually block at the Division I level. That has not happened under any of the coaches going back until Mark Mangino, last one to do that at Kansas. Until you do that, the rest of this is nonsense. There's a reason Montel Cozart looked great at Boise State. There's a reason that for a while Ryan Willis looked good at Virginia Tech. And running back's a different story, but there's a reason Khalil Herbert's got himself into the Heisman conversation. You need an offensive line. KU hasn't had that in a decade. That's why you lose. And until that's fixed, I'm still going to watch the game because I'm a sadomasochist. I just put myself through this trauma, but I'm also not going to have arguments about whether Jalen Daniels is good, whether Thomas McVitie is good. You'll have no idea if they're getting killed a second into every play. That's it. That's all I have. That's my rant again.
I think that was good. I think the Herbert example might actually be better for the offensive line argument because I think so much of running back success is determined by the offensive line, and Herbert just going bananas somewhere else is indicative of the offensive line. That's true.
It never translated to wins because they weren't in a position to win most of the time. But, his numbers looked amazing, and now it's just completely unleashed.
Yeah.
I think with quarterback, it still matters because if you don't have the time to throw, figuring out whether you can read your progressions, whether you're making the right play, whether you're throwing it to the right spot, whether you're, calm in the pocket. You can't be calm in the pocket if you're never getting the protection you need. And it's not like occasionally. It's not about being able to make it through the hits and, not to see ghosts like certain NFL quarterbacks we were talking about earlier. It's the idea that if you're never getting the proper protection to run the plays the way that, say you have a Brent Dearman who is setting up your offense for success, but you never have time, you can't be talking about the quarterback doesn't have it. If you drop Todd Reesing onto any of the teams in the last 5 years, he would do better because he's a baller. He'd also be dead. He would have been injured and out before he ever did the type of stuff we watched him do under Mark Mangino, because the first thing Mark Mangino fixed was the offensive line. From there, they pieced it together and made some pretty good seasons. But you don't have the offensive line. There's no reason to even start talking about what the quarterback is capable of.
And the thing about the offensive line is you're only as strong as your weakest link, and there are a couple good players on KU's offensive line, but Malik Clark at left tackle is really struggling. That's why they're historically bad, is because he transitioned from guard to tackle out of necessity because they didn't have many other options, and he has struggled. I mean, he doesn't seem to have the lateral quickness to deal with speed rushers off the edge, and when he does get over there, he's not able to adjust, and they're able to beat him with a spin move. So I think in particular, he struggled a lot. And there's a couple other spots that have been decent. Lil Petty's moved in at right tackle after, playing different positions along the offense line. He's been fine, and even Chris Hughes at right guard is actually a really good run blocker. He doesn't necessarily do as well in passing down situations, but I think there's a couple spots on the offense line that KU has to feel excited about. And even Bostic at times this year looked decent. But I think, in particular, the left side has struggled, and that is what's led to a lot of the struggles on the offense line. Going back to the whole original point of all this was the spread, which is 28.5 points. This might be the first time I actually feel like I would pick KU. I think I've picked against KU all year, and it's only worked against me once. So it was on the kickoff return for a touchdown on a backdoor cover by Puka Williams there. But 28.5 seems like a
backdoor.
Yeah, 28.5 does seem like a lot of points. Brock Purdy hasn't played exceptionally well this year. I understand it's October and this is Brocktober and whatever they call it in Ames, but I think it's a lot of points for a KU defense that's actually played pretty well this year, despite what the final scores have shown. They've actually played really well in the first half of a lot of these games, and it's kind of fatigue or the offense not sustaining drives that's led to some of these second half struggles. So I think I'm going to end up picking KU to cover that spread. I'm not going to feel great about it because anytime you're picking KU this year in particular, it doesn't feel great. But I wouldn't bet the house is what I was trying to allude to, which is what I think Bobby suggested. Yeah. So I'm just saying if you are going to follow that bet, I don't feel as confident about it.
It's important to remember we're getting to the portion of the season where KU does a hell of a job covering the spread to get fans and to get people convinced. Do we need to give this coach another year? Whatever timetable you think. I know Les Miles has a little bit more slack than some of the previous ones, but whatever that thing is, we always get whether it's a upset victory or even just they're not playing as bad. That's a good sign. They could probably keep a couple of recruits from not defecting and going somewhere else. That's the time of year KU is entered. So I'm excited to see them only lose by 24. Let's go, KU. Let's do this. I'm excited. Bobby, did you actually say yours? You said bet the house, so actually put money on this game? Have you made the bet yet?
Oh no, my hypothetical bets for each respect. Each respective hypothetical bet will only be put in about 30 minutes before the game starts, hypothetically. But I like the confidence. This will be not the fish fillet bet of the week, but I'm gonna put a whole ass fish fillet meal on it.
They got McRibs right now. Is there McRib happening?
I don't know what's happening right. They got spicy nuggies, but those are kind of trash.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. It's if I wanted spicy, I'd just get a spicy sauce to dip it into. There's better places. Just go get actual spicy wings from somewhere. Yeah.
I just go to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, we can't do that. Can't bring that as part of the podcast right now. Yeah, if there was McRib, I would do it. Let's go big time. Let's go with a double quarter pounder meal. There we go.
You're feeling brave.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm down.
Perfect. Now I will be extra upset when KU gets killed and I have to pay for a double quarter pounder meal.
I don't feel confident either way. I just want the record to show that.
You are in on this bet, Shane. You cannot back out now.
I'm saying I'm going to pick KU because I have to pick against the spread every week for getting to know the opponents. I'm just saying that's the side I'm going to pick, but I don't feel extremely confident either way.
All right, we're adding a McFlurry and compound interest for every time we go to McDonald's to pick it up and the McFlurry machine isn't working. That is how this bet will go. We've already started a trend to put all of us into epic debt at some point in our life, as we can never get the McFlurry made. That's what's happening. KU, you better win, because I don't want the disappointment of being told no Oreo McFlurry this week. So I think that's all we have. I think that's the end of this pod, ending because, one, we've gone over an hour, and two, I'm hungry now. That was a mistake for us talking about food for as long as we did. So I'd like to thank our guest first, Marco, who took off early, but I'll just immediately get off this podcast, eat some McDonald's, and listen to Marco on the radio. And Bobby, he needs to get some sleep. You can get out of here. Shane's going to go and cover some KU and some the high school. You said before you came on that you had an interview set up. Who's the lucky athlete you're going to talk to today?
I'm just going to talk to a Free State football player ahead of their postseason and do an interview with them.
An
and
exciting
so,
time.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Although football, I'm okay with. There's a volleyball team I cover that's undefeated right now and just won their district championship game. So I don't know how I'm going to pull it off. They're going to have everything that's in Missouri is over on the east side where they do championships. So at some point I'm going to have to drive like 4.5 hours to get to a volleyball championship game. And a lot of quick trip is what's going to happen on that one. So there we go. I just named all of the sponsors I'd won on this show, all of the sponsors that don't know exist and will never give me money. So we've completed this episode of Too Many Points on the Tell Me More podcast. Later, folks. I'm not going to be able to shut this off. I'm going to do the Andy Samberg finish to a podcast. But seriously this time, in broadcast later, folks.